The hum of the servers used to be a lullaby to me. It was a symphony of efficiency, a testament to the meticulous design and countless hours I poured into every rack, every cable, every cooling unit of the data center. My name is Elodie Dubois, and for years, that data center, the beating heart of Sterling Tech, was my universe. I knew its every pulse, its every subtle tremor. I understood its language in a way no one else at the company did, not even Robert Sterling, the CEO himself. Sterling Tech was a mid-sized tech company, once a beacon of innovation, now slowly suffocating under the weight of nepotism. Robert Sterling, a man whose ambition had once been admirable, had succumbed to the fatal flaw of many founders, believing his bloodline was as brilliant as his vision. His son, Antoine Sterling, was a walking, talking embodiment of inherited privilege and unearned arrogance. Antoine had been parachuted into a senior management role, ostensibly to learn the ropes, but in reality to sow discord and inefficiency wherever he landed. He was a handsome man, with a slick smile and an air of effortless charm that masked a cavernous lack of substance. He knew how to talk the talk, but when it came to walking it, he stumbled, often spectacularly. My role was Data Center Operations Manager. It wasn't a flashy title, but it was crucial. I managed the physical infrastructure, the cooling systems, the power distribution, the network connectivity, everything that kept Sterling Tech's digital empire running. I had built the current data center from the ground up, designed its intricate cooling architecture, and implemented predictive maintenance protocols that had saved the company millions. My team, a small but dedicated group of engineers, revered me. We were the silent guardians, the unseen force that kept the lights on. Antoine's arrival in the tech division was like a slow-burning fuse. He started with optimizing budgets, which meant gutting essential maintenance contracts and replacing experienced vendors with his golf buddies' fledgling companies. I saw the red flags immediately. Antoine, I'd warned him during one particularly tense meeting, my voice carefully modulated to hide the frustration bubbling beneath. Cutting corners on the chiller units will lead to thermal throttling, potential hardware failure, and eventually catastrophic outages. The PUE will skyrocket. He'd merely waved a dismissive hand, a condescending smirk playing on his lips. LOD, darling, you engineers are always so dramatic. We need to be lean, agile. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. My father taught me the value of a dollar. His father, Robert, was equally blind, or perhaps willfully ignorant. He saw Antoine as a younger, bolder version of himself, a disruptor. Every time I tried to escalate my concerns, Robert would pat me on the shoulder, tell me I was a bit too conservative, and assure me Antoine was bringing fresh energy. It was infuriating. I wasn't being conservative, I was being realistic. I was looking at the actual data, the rising temperature logs, the increased power consumption that pointed to a system under immense stress. The real turning point came when Antoine, in a fit of innovation, decided to reconfigure the server racks without consulting my team. He wanted a more modern aesthetic, a sleeker look. He moved high-density servers next to low-density ones, ignored airflow patterns, and even blocked some critical hot aisle containment systems with decorative panels he'd ordered online. The temperatures inside the data center, usually maintained with precision at a cool 22 degrees Celsius, began to creep upwards. First to 25 degrees, then 28 degrees, then 30 degrees. I presented Robert with irrefutable evidence, graphs, heat maps, projected hardware failure rates. Robert, I pleaded, a tremor in my voice I couldn't quite control. We are on the verge of a meltdown. If these temperatures continue, we will lose entire racks. The company's core services will go offline. Robert looked at the reports, then at Antoine, who was busy scrolling through his phone. Antoine, what's going on here? He asked, a hint of concern finally seeping into his tone. Antoine, ever the master of deflection, shrugged. Dad, Elodie is exaggerating. We're just pushing the boundaries a bit. Modern servers can handle it. This is just a growth pain. Robert, swayed by his son's smooth talk and his own desire to believe in him, turned back to me. Elodie, perhaps you need to find a way to make it work. Innovation sometimes requires pushing through discomfort. I was stunned. Discomfort? We were talking about millions of dollars in potential losses, the reputation of the company, and the livelihoods of hundreds of employees. My attempts to fix Antoine's mistakes were met with resistance. He saw it as undermining his authority. He actively prevented my team from accessing certain areas, claiming he had new security protocols. The situation became a toxic battleground. I was a lone voice of reason in a sea of willful blindness and entitlement. Eventually, the inevitable happened. A critical cooling unit, stressed beyond its design limits by Antoine's aesthetic changes, failed spectacularly. The alarms blared, the emergency cooling kicked in, but it was too late. Several racks overheated, causing data corruption and temporary outages for Sterling Tech's most lucrative clients. This was my chance, I thought, this undeniable proof of Antoine's incompetence. But I was wrong. Robert, instead of holding his son accountable, chose to protect him. He called me into his office, Antoine sitting smugly beside him. "Elodie," Robert began, his voice devoid of its usual warmth, "we've decided that your approach to data center management is not aligned with the company's future vision. We need someone who can embrace change, not resist it." He then handed me a termination letter. "Your services are no longer required." Antoine smirked, a silent "I told you so" in his eyes. My world shattered. Years of dedication, innovation, and loyalty dismissed in a single cold breath. I felt a searing pain, a betrayal so profound it left me breathless. I wanted to scream, to rage, to throw the stack of reports proving my innocence in their faces. But I didn't. I simply stared at Robert, then at Antoine, a cold, hard resolve settling in my chest. "You will regret this," I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet laced with an intensity that made Antoine flinch. "Both of you." I walked out, not looking back, leaving behind the hum of servers that had once been my lullaby, now a mocking dirge. I spent the next few weeks in a daze, the sting of injustice a constant companion. The tech industry was a small world, and being fired, even under dubious circumstances, carried a stigma. I received a few offers, but they felt like pity, like stepping stones to nowhere. I needed a change, a complete reset. I sold my apartment, packed a single suitcase, and bought a one-way ticket to Paris. I had always dreamed of living in France, of finding solace in its culture, its food, its slower pace of life. It was a desperate act, but also one born of a deep need to rediscover myself, away from the corporate toxicity that had almost consumed me. Paris was a balm to my wounded soul. I found a small apartment in Les Marais, its windows overlooking a charming cobblestone street. I spent my days exploring museums, learning French, and most importantly, sitting for hours in various cafes, sipping espresso, and watching the world go by. It was in one such cafe, a quaint little place with red awnings and the scent of freshly baked croissants, that I began to heal. The distance, both geographical and emotional, gave me perspective. I realized that my value wasn't tied to Sterling Tech or to Robert Sterling's approval. My knowledge, my expertise, my passion for technology, those were intrinsic, and they were still very much alive. News from Sterling Tech reached me sporadically, mostly through former colleagues who, despite the fear of reprisal, kept in touch. The reports were grim. The data center, which I had so meticulously designed, was failing. Antoine's innovations had led to a cascade of problems. The temperatures were out of control, not just in isolated racks, but across entire server halls. Clients were experiencing frequent, prolonged outages. Data was being lost. The company's reputation was in tatters. Their stock price was plummeting. The once bright beacon of Sterling Tech was now a flickering candle, threatening to extinguish itself completely. I heard of desperate attempts to fix the problem. They brought in external consultants, but no one could truly grasp the intricate, custom-built architecture I had implemented. Antoine, predictably, blamed everyone but himself. He fired members of my old team, further crippling their ability to respond. Robert, I heard, was a shadow of his former self, haggard and stressed. The company was hemorrhaging money, and the board was demanding answers. The ultimate ultimatum came in a public statement: fix the data center within 3 months or face liquidation. One crisp autumn morning, as I sat in my favorite cafe, a notification pinged on my old, rarely used work email. It was from Robert Sterling. My heart skipped a beat. The email was short, formal, almost pleading. He asked for a call at my convenience. I stared at the screen, a mix of triumph and a strange, cold satisfaction washing over me. The corporate chess match, as I had once thought of it, was finally reaching its endgame, and I held all the pieces. I waited 2 days. I let him stew. Then I replied, giving him a specific time, ensuring it was late evening for him, early afternoon for me. When the video call connected, Robert Sterling appeared on my screen, looking every bit as broken as the rumor suggested. His usually sharp suit was rumpled, his hair disheveled, and his eyes held a desperate plea. Antoine was nowhere in sight. "Elodie," he began, his voice hoarse, "thank you for taking this call. I know I made a mistake, a terrible mistake." He paused, struggling to find the words. "The company is on the brink. The data center, it's a disaster. We've tried everything. No one can fix it. No one but you." His gaze met mine, full of a raw, desperate honesty. I felt nothing but a cold, hard resolve. The pain of betrayal was still there, a dull ache, but it was now overshadowed by a powerful sense of purpose. "Robert," I said, my voice calm, steady, and utterly devoid of emotion. "You fired me. You dismissed my warnings. You protected your incompetent son, and you allowed years of my work to be systematically dismantled. You chose nepotism over the survival of your own company." I watched his face crumple, but I felt no pity. "I know," he whispered, "and I am truly sorry. I was blind. I was foolish. I let my pride, my love for my son cloud my judgment." He looked away, then back at me. "Elodie, please, name your price. Come back. Save Sterling Tech. Save my legacy." The desperation in his eyes was almost unbearable. This was it, the moment I had envisioned, perhaps unconsciously, during those long healing days in Paris. I took a deep breath, the aroma of coffee and fresh bread filling my senses, anchoring me. "Robert, this isn't just about a price. This is about justice. This is about respect. And this is about ensuring that what happened to me and to Sterling Tech never happens again." He nodded, his gaze fixed on mine. "Anything you ask." "First," I began, my voice unwavering, "Antoine Sterling must be removed from the company, permanently and publicly. I want a press release stating that he has been terminated due to gross mismanagement and incompetence, effective immediately." Robert flinched, his jaw tightening. This was the hardest blow, the ultimate choice: his company or his son. He closed his eyes for a long moment, then opened them, a flicker of pain, but also grim determination in their depths. "Agreed," he said, his voice barely audible. "Second," I continued, pressing my advantage, "my compensation. I require a 6-figure salary starting immediately, and a comprehensive bonus structure tied to the company's recovery and profitability. This is non-negotiable." He didn't even hesitate. "Done." Third, and most importantly, I leaned forward, my eyes locking onto his, I return as Chief Technology Officer,
full authority over all technological infrastructure, including the data center, network architecture, and software development. I report directly to the board, not to you, and certainly not to any other senior management you might have chosen. I will have the power to restructure teams, hire and fire, and implement my vision without interference. I will be the ultimate authority on all things tech at Sterling Tech. This was about power, about control, about ensuring my vision would be respected, protected, and implemented without compromise. Robert stared at me, his face a mask of awe and resignation. CTO? He repeated, as if tasting the word. But that's a board-level position. It's a massive leap. He was clearly struggling with the implications, the dilution of his own power, the unprecedented authority I was demanding. Take it or leave it, Robert, I stated, my voice firm. The company is dying. I am the only one who can save it, and I will only do so on my terms. My terms ensure the company's survival, and my terms ensure that the mistakes of the past are never repeated. You chose your son over me once. Now you must choose the company over him and over your own pride. The choice is yours. The clock is ticking.
The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant sounds of Parisian street life. I watched Robert Sterling, the once powerful CEO, crumble under the weight of his own creation. His legacy, his life's work, hung in the balance. He had to face the consequences of his choices, the bitter fruit of his nepotism. Finally, he straightened his shoulders, a deep sigh escaping his lips. "Agreed," he said, his voice stronger now, laced with a new kind of resolve. "You have your terms, Elodie. Welcome back, CTO Dubois." I felt a surge of triumph, a powerful, exhilarating sense of vindication. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about proving my worth, about reclaiming my expertise, and about ensuring that true merit could, in the end, overcome even the most entrenched privilege. I closed my laptop, the screen reflecting my own determined gaze. The French cafe, once my sanctuary, was now the launchpad for my ultimate corporate comeback. I had negotiated a six-figure deal, a CTO title, and the public downfall of an incompetent heir, all from the quiet comfort of a Parisian morning. The data center inferno was about to be quenched, not by a desperate CEO, but by the woman he had foolishly cast aside. My symphony of efficiency was about to begin anew, louder and stronger than ever before. My return to Sterling Tech was met with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The press release had gone out, a stark, unambiguous statement announcing Antoine Sterling's immediate termination and my appointment as CTO. The tech world buzzed. Robert Sterling, for all his flaws, had honored his word, taking the public humiliation for his son. The atmosphere in the office was palpable. Those who had stood by Antoine were nervous, their faces pale. My old team members, however, greeted me with relief and genuine excitement, a quiet cheer passing through the data center engineers. I didn't waste a single moment on pleasantries. My first act as CTO was to convene an emergency meeting with the remaining data center team and a hand-picked group of senior engineers from other departments. I laid out my plan with precision and clarity. We would conduct a full audit, identify every single point of failure Antoine had introduced, and systematically dismantle his innovations. It was a massive undertaking, akin to rebuilding a house while still living in it, but I knew we could do it. I empowered my team, giving them the authority and resources they had been denied for so long. We worked around the clock, fueled by caffeine and a shared sense of mission. The initial days were brutal. The data center was even worse than I had imagined. The temperatures were dangerously high, the cooling systems were on the verge of total collapse, and critical hardware was failing daily. But this time, I had full control. I authorized immediate purchases of new chiller units, brought back my trusted vendors, and implemented a phased shutdown and reconfiguration plan.
There were moments of doubt, moments when the sheer scale of the damage felt overwhelming, but I pushed through, driven by the memory of Robert's desperate face, Antoine's smug smirk, and the burning desire to prove them all wrong. I was relentless. I held daily stand-ups, reviewed every temperature log, every power consumption report. I personally oversaw the installation of new sensors, the rerouting of power lines, the optimization of airflow. My hands-on approach, combined with my strategic vision, quickly began to turn the tide. Within weeks, the critical temperatures started to drop. The outages became less frequent, then stopped altogether. The hum of the servers, once a sign of distress, slowly transformed back into its familiar, soothing rhythm. As the data center stabilized, I turned my attention to the broader tech infrastructure. I streamlined development processes, fostered a culture of innovation and collaboration, and championed new technologies that had been dismissed under Antoine's leadership. I brought in fresh talent, but more importantly, I nurtured the existing talent, empowering engineers who had felt stifled and overlooked. Sterling Tech, which had been teetering on the brink of collapse, began to show signs of life, then vitality. Robert Sterling watched my progress from a distance, a silent observer in board meetings, his face etched with a complex mix of regret, admiration, and perhaps a touch of fear. He never interfered, never questioned my decisions. He had learned his lesson. Antoine, I heard through the grapevine, was struggling. His reputation in the industry was ruined, a pariah. The public termination had been a powerful, inescapable condemnation. He tried to start a new venture, but without his father's backing or any actual skill, it quickly fizzled out. His downfall was as complete as my rise. Months turned into a year. Sterling Tech was not just saved, it was thriving. Our stock price had not only recovered, but surpassed its previous highs. We launched innovative new products, attracted top talent, and regained the trust of our clients. The data center, once a symbol of corporate failure, was now a model of efficiency and resilience, a testament to what could be achieved when merit superseded privilege. My office, now a spacious corner suite with panoramic views, felt different from the cramped cubicle I once occupied. The CTO title, once a distant dream, was now a reality, a heavy but satisfying weight. I often found myself staring out the window, reflecting on the journey. The injustice, the despair, the quiet resolve forged in a French cafe, and the ultimate triumph. I had not just saved a company, I had redefined what was possible. I had proven that expertise, dedication, and an unwavering belief in one's own worth could overcome even the most entrenched systems of nepotism and arrogance. The hum of the servers still played its lullaby, but now it sang a song of my victory. It was the sound of a corporate chess match won, not by a king, but by the quiet, brilliant queen who had been underestimated and discarded, only to return and claim her rightful place on the board. My revenge was complete, and it was glorious.